It's another episode of the Brett Allen Show. And today we are chatting with actor Steve Martini. Steve Martini, I'm excited about this conversation. I mean, I know who you are. I've seen all the things that you've been in, but I came across your profile on TikTok and you were answering questions from fans about your career and projects that you've been a part of. And I became immediately fascinated and was like, I need to talk to this individual because, I mean, let's just roll the clock back here, going back to all the projects that you've been a part of, going back to the very beginning to a CBS school break special, to Cadet Alex Stone and Major Payne, and then just the list goes on and on. Thanks for hanging out today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Sure. And yeah, anytime.
Well, let's talk about this because obviously you've been a part of some pretty major projects. And then, of course, again, coming across you on TikTok, are people just absolutely fascinated with you and your work? And what led you to start sort of doing all of this on social media and answering questions from fans?
Okay. So, yeah, it's interesting because Major Payne wasn't really that much of a, it wasn't a box office sort of leader of its time. It did well enough to make its money back, but there was no really big, broad fan base that I ever was even aware about until recently. It came back on Netflix during the pandemic.
Yes.
And I started to see that people were kind of like peeking around and kind of like looking for me. And honestly, like I guess I've technically had social media for, I guess 20 or so years now. I mean, remember MySpace I had,
Yes.
But nobody's ever like reached out to me, every now and then I'd get a random, like, people would recognize me, but nobody's ever really been that excited about the movie or mean it to the point where I was aware of. And then when the pandemic happened, it started to just sort of open up all these doors, and I just started to go, oh wow, well I'd like to show people where I'm at now and what I'm doing, and it's been a really interesting process because I'm way more of an introvert, and it's not I don't think it's the most intuitive thing to put yourself out there like that. And so I'm just trying to be creative and have fun and give people something, something fun to kind of look at, and so when the questions come about Major Payne, it's really fun for me to think back and look back at the movie and stuff. So I'm really enjoying it. I gotta say, it's surprising to me because I was a little worried at first because you don't know, you get these crazy comments and you don't know where it's going to go, but
yeah.
But so far, TikTok is really a miracle. Honestly, I don't think I would have found anybody, if TikTok didn't do its thing. I don't really go to Comic Cons or do that stuff. So like, I don't really know where to even, reach out to people. So I just started putting stuff out there and here we are.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how social media, it's funny you mentioned MySpace. I think I might even still have login information to MySpace, which is kind of funny, but social media, well, especially during the pandemic and when people were stuck at home for sure, but it's interesting how it all works out, right? Because I found you, I reached out to you on social media, you kindly and generously responded because I think this movie has a cult following now. Like it's definitely one that people remember and have not soon forgotten because there was a pretty big cast in it. Well, before I don't want to make this our entire time about that because I know you have limited time, but it is fascinating.
We can do this again,
Yeah, for sure. I would love to have you come back on and we could do the whole podcast about Major Payne. But yeah. You did the CBS or you did the school break special. What interested you in becoming an actor? That would be my big question, is what sort of interested you in becoming part of this industry? Obviously Major Payne and a few other things being big recognizable projects, but when did you know that acting was something that you wanted to do?
Oh God. I mean, that's the age old question, man. That's great. It's like I just don't ever remember wanting to do anything else other than play pretend with my friends. So like,
Yeah.
honestly, I think I did a TikTok about it. I think that the time I noticed it was when I think I was 6 years old and I was watching Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I realized that the guy who's playing Indiana Jones is the same guy who plays Han Solo.
Yeah.
And like, and those wires crossed in my brains forever. And I said, if this guy does that, that means he gets paid to do that. And that's his job. And I said, well, then at that point, there was just nothing else I even wanted to think about doing, because I'm also, what's the word? I don't like to be put in a box for anything. So anytime I would be asked in school, like, what do you want to do with your life when you grow up? Like, I would rather just kind of do everything. You can play pretend, you can
Yeah.
do anything you want. So it's one of those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. It's interesting because really, like, if you go through your filmography, I mean, outside of starring in and being a part of projects, you've also written a lot. You've directed a lot. So really, for me, it seems, and this whole world is just something that has consumed you from the very beginning. Uh,
100%, 100%. And I got into, I started writing because, as an actor, of course you get into it, you have no idea what this industry even is all about. You
right.
just think it's the fun part. But I started writing because it became very clear to me pretty quickly that that great awesome role I had as Alex Stone in Major Payne, those things don't come along that often, and
No, at all.
yeah, and it's like, and when they do, the competition is crazy, and and uh and so like for me, I started to really get into feeling like, well, once I started to do other things where I realized I wasn't in control and I had no way to like know if the stuff was going to come out, get released. I did a TV series where I was a undercover cop, and I was supposed to be this huge big NBC show that was, we had a time slot after ER in the 90s, which was like a very coveted spot to be. And it seemed like, everything was going to launch into this whole new direction of having my own TV show. And I had zero control over where that was going to go, and the day that the giant corporate network said, oh no, we're going to cancel the show, we don't really care about it, or you, I just went into a complete like free fall panic, feeling like I have no control over this thing that I love, and I love it so much, and I just want to be able to do it. What can I do? And so, writing is really the only place you can have control over all the characters, and I can play all the characters. And so once that door opened up, it really became, writing is it consumes you even more. It's like you got to have all the characters, all the story. It's so mentally taxing that you just like to have a lot of quiet time alone, and it's actually different than the performance of acting, which is more extroverted and more putting yourself out there. And when you're right, you can just go in your own cave and spend, sometimes it's years on a script. So yeah, that's kind of that, and there's also a little known thing that I learned in this business was that the stuff that you actually see, in the theaters or on the screen, they've, it's come so far down this stream, you know, that when you go further upstream, by the in the development process, when people are pitching these ideas, when they're writing them, there's so much money spent upstream
Yeah.
that you don't even know about, and there's so much money to be made for creatives on things that never ever get seen. Never, you don't even know what's going to happen to them, but you can get paid and make a good living being creative. And so
Yeah.
that opened up many doors for me for writing jobs, basically. And writing started to pay a lot more for me than acting did, because the acting jobs seem starting to become fewer and further between, that you can do. So
Yeah, it's interesting. that you say that, and I've heard that a lot of times before too, from other people I've had on the show. I use this example a lot because it's current in my mind. But Doug Allen, the creator of Entourage, I've had him on the show. He said something very similar. You know, he tried acting, he tried stand up, but then found out very soon on that writing, there was more money in that per se, because obviously it's a different skill set. It takes more time, but you can sell a script, get paid for it, and it might not ever see the light of day for an extended period of time. But then when it does, it's a massive hit. You know what I'm saying? Because
and even if it doesn't, though, you still can get paid enough to give yourself a good cushion.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think when people want to get into this industry, that's kind of a hidden secret, maybe to a point. It's a little bit more stressful, and as you said, more time consuming, and a lot more incredulous. But if you can do it and do well at it, which you've done, you can create these projects. And it's great because when you get a role, say like Alex Stone or this network deal that you're mentioning, you know, there's a lot of unknowns to it, right? And you just don't know where it's going to take you. When you did this movie, you know, Major Payne, it was at the height of the Wayans brothers. I mean, they were just everything that they touched. And I think still probably even to this day. I was watching White Chicks yesterday and just realizing like there was this pocket of time where
does that hold up? Is that movie insane right now?
I don't, it's interesting. I don't know. There's been rumors of like doing it again, a sequel, so to speak. I don't necessarily know that you probably might have to change some things just from a viewer's perspective, but it's still a funny movie. Like, you know, we had an interview set up with one of the cast members at one point and it didn't make it because they had Brittany Daniel had a baby and then eye surgery. And we were going to talk about this film, but it kind of does a little bit, you know, but your film definitely does. It's still funny. It's still entertaining.
Well, it's funny though. I mean, he makes jokes obviously about I mean, I don't know if even the, you know, the deaf kid, he's constantly ragging on the deaf kid in the movie. It's like, I just don't think you can even, you know, that today is like,
it would be tough. I think, you know, people talk about that a lot. The Office. I don't know. There's just a lot of different things that you ask the question, would it hold up today? You know, even like a Seinfeld. I don't know if it would or not. But you know, to my point, like this time frame was just huge. When you're making this movie, do you realize the success of Damon Wayans and the Wayan brothers? Do you know sort of who they are and sort of their success levels? So you were aware of it at the time.
Oh yeah. I mean, these guys were like, they were legends already. They were like, you know, these guys were, I mean, they were their own bosses, you know, it seemed like anyway, from my point of view, it seemed like they made their own way, you know, through their own, you know, sort of bootstraps, you know, and their own kind of grinding, you know, and the whole family was just kind of like royalty in their own way, you know, entertainment wise. It's like, and they're all so cool. So it's like, you know, it's yeah. Oh yeah. It was a big deal. I was actually really surprised that they never made a sequel to Major Payne, because at the time I thought, oh, well, this is clearly Damon's best, you know, movie and his like best role.
Yeah.
It's just like a classic role. And yeah, so yeah, I thought that there would be more to it. But then when it was clear that Universal just didn't really care, it didn't have the same kind of vision about it, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always find that fascinating when these types of movies get made and they become so popular and so successful, and then you don't hear about them and then they make their way back. I think that's the beauty of streaming today, is the fact that we can get these projects again and see them again and enjoy them a second or a third time. You know what I mean? And my hat's off to you too, man. Like what I consider that you've done, I consider you to have a very successful career because you've been in things and now you're writing and producing. You mentioned before taping that you're working on a project right now. I'm very curious, sort of looking at the culmination of everything that you've done. what is maybe some of the best advice that you've been given, or maybe that you've given others? Because people clearly reach out to you and want to know about you and find what you do fascinating. Obviously, because of the world of TikTok and Instagram, I don't know how much you do on that, but at least TikTok has created this whole world where people
Dude,
can
I'm
connect.
trying to figure this stuff out. Like, I don't even understand the algorithm. I'm like, I do one post and I think it's going to blow up, and then like a couple of hundred people see it, and then the next one, I don't understand it. I actually think it's very unfair of them to not explain to you what,
Sure.
if you don't do a right hashtag, all of a sudden your whole post is like not seen by the people. It's like it's it's maddening at times, because I'm just genuinely trying to be creative and make something that I think can inform and entertain and give people like a minute of their day. That's like, oh wow. And it's like sometimes I put energy and effort into it to the point when, then you hit post, and then it's really not up to you anymore. And it's I know that's where we live. That's the jungle we live in now. But you would think it would be very simple for them if they're like, look, you have 100,000 followers, then when you make a post, those 100,000 followers are going to see it.
Yeah.
Like, to me, that's like A plus B equals C. And for some reason, they put something in the middle of that A and the B and the C. And
yeah.
there's the logic is not there to help us. I don't know.
Right.
Do you understand that?
I don't understand it either. Like, I don't get it. For me, that's why I do podcasting. The audio side for us has been very successful. We've made money from it. We started a YouTube. Yeah, we started not a ton, but enough, to pay a couple bills here and there. We've started YouTube. We've seen moderate success on that. But again, one video that we post might get thousands and thousands of views. Others might see 15 or 20. I don't know. That's the age that we live in, and with all this technology. But hey, I came across you. I found you. We made a connection, and I'm excited about that, because
I guess, but to answer your question, you asked a question, what advice would you give?
Have you given any advice, or maybe received advice anytime throughout your career where you've gone, okay, this is what I've learned and what I would pass on to somebody else, whether they want to be in the industry or they want to do whatever, anything along those lines?
Well, first of all, it's a shit show. This industry is the shit show of the world. But like, for me, I guess the thing that keeps me going is to really, that keep feeding that fire inside, that despite what anybody else thinks or says, there's still something that each individual artist knows inside of them, and they feel it, and they have to get it out somehow. And I just think that it's like you have to stay true to that. It's like you just have to, because if you're running around chasing all these things that you think everybody else wants, it's ultimately misleading and not satisfying. It's funny, just because it's like that thing where it's like, well, I'm an actor. Oh yeah, well, what have you done? It's like, well, I shouldn't have to fucking monetize everything to prove to people what I am. It's like, I don't believe in that with art and creativity. I think that the internet in its best has shown us that at least, creativity is something that is a force to be reckoned with, and there's inherent value to it.
Yeah.
But having to run and monetize, look, I know it's a great feeling to be able to say, yeah, I paid my bills doing this thing that I love. Like that got me on for years, to be like, well, at least I'm doing that. Maybe people don't recognize me, in the way where, and I don't really give a shit about recognition or fame at all. It's just the only thing that it helps you get other parts and other roles,
right,
and other jobs. So it's like, it would be nice to work more, and and have it be, obviously, if people come to you with offers and they want you for something, that's the best position to be in. But 99% of the people out there have to, chase and hunt, and really kind of find the right thing. So, it's a precarious balance. And there are times when it's just, anytime I think about stopping and doing something else, it's just, nothing makes any sense. The little bit about this life that makes sense that I know of, the thing that I'm confident on is this creative process that we're talking about,
Well, I tell you what, man, you've inspired me, just watching you, and again, just kind of following you on social media, the things that you post, the little pieces of advice. I think a million and bajillion people out there who want to be in this industry would kill to do what you do, and to just be able to score a film, or to be able to be Cadet Alex Stone in Major Payne, or whatever the case might be. I'll wrap up here with this. Somebody asked Matt Damon recently. It might have been recently. I don't know. It was something that I saw on social media, and they asked him, they said, do you think teachers should be paid as much as actors? And he said, no, because the average salary of an actor is not that great. But it depends on which actors you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of a weird question. Do you think teachers should be paid more? Sure. Are they paid enough? No. But like the average mean salary of an actor, when you say an actor in this industry, is not that much. You know what I'm saying? So it's not,
you get like a plum job on like a TV series that runs for years.
Or even then, I was talking to another actor who had a huge, very big role on a very popular television show. And unless you become a series regular or something like that, even then there's not a lot of like, it's a shit show, like you say. It's rewarding. It's great. You're known for this or known for that, but it may not be what you think it is. And I think that's the important thing. You have to do this, as you've said, it seems, for the passion and joy of it. And that has to be what it is.
And just know that there is a trade-off. If you get to do what you love, eventually you're going to hate it. Like, business makes you hate everything.
Yeah.
So you have to keep reinventing and reincarnating that initial spark and that love, and it does always come back,
Yeah.
There's so many of those, as we say in writing, the dark night of the souls, when, it's the low point in the movie. There's so many low points in this life that you just have to, you have to be able to be aware of it and then see it as a cocoon of sorts that's going to, like, it really is like clockwork for me. Anytime I hit that point, I know how to make a third act structure, so it actually, it's actually psychologically very, very helpful, to know that this work is about narrative, and narrative is how we construct the world and how we see ourselves. So like all the stuff we learn about how to create a narrative and create a works inside of us, so it's really a tool that I think has more value than I think people are even willing to give it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time, Steve. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure chatting with you, and I'm excited to see what's next for you.
Yeah, man. Anytime. I'm about to score this movie that I did. I have some new stuff coming out, and we can talk more. I've been involved in so many, the indie film world, festivals and Sundance, and so like there's lots of stuff we can get into. But right now I have to do this score for this movie. So
absolutely. Well, thank you so much.